Hi, I'm Emily Mielstein with the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council, and this is a public hearing video designed to gather your comments on a framework amendment which considers making management modifications to mutton snapper and gag. So we're here for two separate reasons. First, we recently received a stock assessment on mutton snapper, and the good news is that the stock is neither overfished nor experiencing overfishing. However, the stock assessment found that the spawning biomass of mutton snapper is lower than previously thought, and that recent assessment recommended that a harvest reduction take place in order to prevent overfishing in the future. Also, for mutton snapper, currently the state and council regulations are not compatible with one another. So for gag, the commercial gag minimum size limit is not compatible with the recreational size limit in the Gulf or with South Atlantic regulations. For mutton snapper, the council would like to align management with the recent stock assessment, as well as consider simplifying management since the state and council management measures are different. For gag, the council is considering finding a way to simplify management because that gag commercial size limit is different for the Gulf jurisdiction than it is for the state of Florida or the South Atlantic. We'll start with Action 1 that takes a look at the Gulf mutton snapper annual catch limit. So the current annual catch limits and targets for mutton snapper in the Gulf are based on 18% apportionment of the combined South Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico acceptable biological catch. Now this was set in the generic annual catch limit, annual catch target amendment. So that translates to an annual catch limit for mutton snapper in the Gulf of 203,000 pounds and an annual catch target for mutton snapper of 175,000 pounds. So the council's scientific advisors, after looking at the recent stock assessment, has suggested new harvest levels. Our first alternative is the no action alternative, and that would leave the annual catch limits and targets as they are. The second alternative would accept the Scientific and Statistical Committee's recommendations for the years 2017 through 2020 and establish the Gulf apportionment of the annual catch limit equal to 18% of the stock acceptable biological catch. We have some sub-options here, either to continue using the annual catch target, which establishes a 12% buffer between the annual catch limit and the annual catch target, or we could choose to remove the annual catch target entirely. And this table will show you the resulting Gulf annual catch limits and targets under this alternative. Or, in alternative 3, the council could consider accepting the Scientific and Statistical Committee recommendations for the years 2017 through 2020, but remove the annual catch target and instead set the annual catch limit with a 12% buffer below the acceptable biological catch levels. And this table will show you the resulting annual catch limit. Moving to Action 2, the council is considering modifying the mutton snapper recreational bag limit. Currently, mutton snapper is part of the aggregate 10 snapper recreational bag limit. So April through June are peak spawning months in the Florida Keys for mutton snapper. They also form spawning aggregations during this time that increase their vulnerability to fishing. The state of Florida currently has a 5-fish bag limit for mutton snapper, and the South Atlantic is actually considering a 5-fish bag limit for mutton snapper as well. Alternative 1 is our no action alternative, and that would retain mutton snapper within the aggregate 10 snapper recreational bag limit. Alternative 2 would also retain mutton snapper within that aggregate 10 snapper bag limit, but it would specify a mutton snapper specific bag limit as well. Now we have two options here. We could choose option 2A, which would set a 3-fish per person bag limit on mutton snapper, or option 2B, which would create a 5-fish per person bag limit on mutton snapper. And Action 3 considers modifying the minimum size limit for mutton snapper. The current minimum size limit for both commercial and recreational mutton snapper fishing is 16 inches total length. Increasing the size limit would slow the rate of harvest for mutton snapper, and the state of Florida recently increased the size limit to 18 inches total length, and the South Atlantic is considering doing the same thing. So the council could take no action by selecting alternative 1. The council could increase the commercial and recreational minimum size limit to 18 inches total length, or the council could select alternative 3 and increase the commercial and recreational minimum size limit of mutton snapper to 20 inches total length. And finally, we move on to action 4, which discusses changing the minimum size limit for commercial gag in the Gulf of Mexico. Currently, the commercial minimum size limit is 22 inches. The recreational minimum size limit in the Gulf is 24 inches, and the South Atlantic minimum size limit is also 24 inches for gag. So the council could do nothing and retain the current 22-inch minimum size limit for gag, or the council could select to increase the commercial minimum size limit to 24 inches total length. The council is scheduled to take final action on this framework amendment in April. They would like to hear your comments before taking that final action. So you can view the full document. You can also submit comments, and please do so by March 28th to ensure that your comments are summarized and presented directly to council before it's able to take final action. And you can submit your comments to us either by following this link to our online comment form, or you can send us an email at golfcouncil@golfcouncil.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and send us your comments on this framework amendment so that the council can take informed action.